I've got a question for you. I thought we couldn't work out the age of immigrants or asylum seekers. We weren't allowed to check records. Often they didn't have paperwork. We weren't allowed to take dental records. It was an infringement of their human rights. So how come they've suddenly worked out that the people that we said were children aren't?
Well, the way we work it out is, there's all sorts of assessments that take place, mainly by independent social workers. And that's the whole point, that obviously we do have people who are qualified to be able to make that assessment as much as is humanly possible. But what the Home Office does is it just looks at people's appearances, it looks at their demeanours, it just makes summary assessment, immediately deciding you're not a child, you're an adult, you're a child, you're an adult. And what that means is that people that it assesses independently, just, immigration caseworkers make those assessments really quickly. And then anyone who they deem to be adults don't actually go to social services. They're not referred to councils. They don't actually go through the processes that a child has to go through. And that's why so many of these people have ended up in this position. But obviously we do have tests and we do have assessments that can help us as much as possible to decide whether someone is a child or an adult.
And many people watching this, this is a report by the Refugee Council and two other charities. They obviously have a vested interest in their narrative. And people will be asking a very basic question. If they're claiming that we get cases wrong this way round, then we must, by definition, by default, by logic, be getting cases wrong the other way round. When we're assuming people are children, they're in fact adults, particularly when they come with no documentation.
Yeah, I'm sure there are mistakes made. Yes, I don't think that's really a matter of debate or contention. I'm sure there is. But the whole point is, what side you want to be erring on? What is the the better approach to take? If in doubt, what do? You decide that a child should be put in prison or a detention center or with adults? Or do you say, okay, fine, he claims to be 17. In fact, maybe he might be 18 or 19. But shall we just treat him as a child just in case? So that's just something, I'm sure there are going to be borderline cases where those judgments have to be made. But here it shows that obviously, like the Home Office does, we talk about this culture of disbelief in the Home Office. You say anything to them and they just automatically assume that, you're a foreigner, you're an asylum seeker, you're an immigrant, you must be lying. And that's the point here. And it's not a small number. It's not 13 or even 130. It's 1,300 in just 18 months. So it means, dozens, tens, every single day, hundreds every month are being wrongly assessed. And these are the ones that got caught. Like the report says, so many of them never get to social services. So those aren't detected. And many councils, obviously, this data was collated by asking individual councils around the country. Many didn't apply, many didn't have the data. So in fact, the number is probably likely to be much more than that. But 1,300, and many of them, obviously, there are immigration-related criminal offences as well. Many of these children were actually taken to criminal courts, prosecuted, convicted.
Hang on, I'd just like to intervene, because you made a point about should we err on one side or the other. I don't think we should err on the side either way. We should be accurate, and accurate ageing should have a process. And here's my problem with that process as it stands. The recommendations laid out in this report is that those so-called experts, you say, who are ageing people come into this country, based upon the word of somebody who we have no idea who they are, we're not allowed to biologically age them through their DNA or through their dental records. That would be a violation of their human rights. The rules are this: in exceptional circumstances where there was evidence that they were in their late 20s or older, only then can we claim to treat children as adults. They're late 20s or older.
And yet we see 1,300 children actually treated as adults. So how old did the Home Office think they were? In their 40s? And that just shows how ridiculous the whole system is, and how ridiculous it is when we have, even in terms of, like we saw last year in terms of the asylum backlog and others, even immigration and asylum decisions, literally their job, the work that these caseworkers are supposed to do, how many times they get them wrong. But how can we expect them to be deciding whether someone is a child or not? That's the whole point. That shouldn't be their job. That should be nothing to do with them. They should refer them automatically to social services and children's services, and they should be making the decisions. That's the whole point. If you just automatically assume, by the way you're talking, or you have a beard, or your demeanor, or your body language, or your physical appearance, you're an adult, and you send them to an adult detention center, they're never going to, no social worker will ever come across them.